welcome to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today's going to be a long one. My voice hurts already from looking at everything I have in front of me. I am going to be ranking all of my Natasha Denona palettes. I've been using these for about 2 months now, just really trying to get my thoughts on them. So if that sounds good to you, give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I do a lot of ranking videos. I have an entire playlist on rankings. I do a lot of first impression reviews as well as foundation reviews. So make sure you subscribe and stick around for all that. But with all that out of the way, we have a lot to talk about. So let's just get started ranking all of these palettes. So as I mentioned, this video has been a long time coming. I've been doing a lot of research. I started this a couple months ago. I decided I wanted to rank all my Pat McGrath palettes. So I'll link that video above. And then I decided it would be a fun little series to kind of just take the eyeshadow palettes I have the most of from each brand. And so next I picked Natasha Denona. And that took me a little bit longer than Pat McGrath. I really wanted to test all of these out more than once. I have 19 palettes here, including the large size, the midi size, the mini size, the 5-pan. So it took a long time to make sure that my ranking was correct. I take this seriously. I don't just rank it for the fun of it, throw it up, and that's it. So I really spent some time at trying all these, coming up with different looks, and I think that I have it down. I did just before filming switch my 1 and 2, but I'm feeling confident with where I ranked these all. I know some people, I've seen some ranking videos and people will rank them separated by the type of palette. Like they'll do all the mini palettes together, all the big palettes together. I'm gonna rank them as one because for me, when I look at a ranking, the 3 things that I kind of just think about when putting these in order is how much I like them, how much I just naturally gravitate towards them, and if I lost all my palettes, like what would be the order that I would purchase them in, and which ones would I not purchase. So that's kind of what I think about when doing my ranking, and that's why I just wanted to keep them all together. So that is what we're gonna do. And now, finally, let's get started with my number 19 spot. I am going to just scoot over a little bit here because I'll be inserting in some swatches next to me. In my last video, inserted in also eye looks that I did. I'm gonna be honest, because this took me so long to just go through. Some of them I took photos of, some of them I didn't. So kind of just got like lost and jumbled. If you prefer having the eye looks in these videos, let me know in the comments below and I'll make sure to be a little bit more diligent. But this video is just gonna have swatches. Let's start with my number 19 spot, and that is gonna go to this one here. This is the Natasha Denona Mini Tropic Palette. So I'm gonna be honest, in 2 months, I didn't reach for this at all. I kind of just had like my piles on the floor. Quite honestly, I like working off the floor a lot, but I had my pile that I used, my pile that I hadn't, to just make sure I had touched them all. I used a lot of these multiple times. And as my pile of untried got smaller and smaller, this one just kept staring at me in the face. And I just didn't want to use it. And I don't know what it is. It's the colors. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's the colors. I just don't like how bright this is. These are not colors that I gravitate towards. I'm more of a neutral person. That's just what's in my blood. I love the browns. I love the cool tones. So I just didn't want to use this. And I'm going to declutter it. I'm going to get rid of it because I never use this even one time and I have no desire to. I don't have the large Tropic palette. Thank God I didn't at least waste my money buying that, and I only wasted my money buying this little mini. But it's gonna go. I can't speak on the formula of this, say it's good or bad, but it's not something that I want to put on. I have no desire. I almost kept it because I really like this purple shade. I was kind of second guessing myself, like, oh, this is really pretty. But I have this in the ABH Nouveau palette, so I'm sticking with my decision of not hoarding things, and I'm going to declutter this. The number 18 spot is going to go to the second palette that I just never gravitated towards, never reached for. I'm also going to declutter this. This is one of her 5-pan eyeshadow palettes, and this is the number 4 palette. So it looks like this. And you can see it's in the old packaging. There used to be a brush here. So this palette is already pretty old. And, you know, I ranked it higher than the Tropic just because it has more of the neutral tones, but I didn't wear either of these. I can see that I did wear it at some point because I can see some use in this pan, and that's why it's just ranking teeny tiny bit higher. I considered ranking them both at number 18, to be honest. It could go either way, but I decided to do it this way. And I don't know, something about this, I just didn't want to wear it. So out of all of these, I wanted to wear them, but I didn't want to wear this one. So I'm just going to declutter it. There's no point in forcing myself just to wear it. It's going to go. Number 17. So starting now, I really like all of these palettes. I wouldn't say any of them are bad. It took me quite a long time to rank these, but it had to be done. So number 17 is going to this 5-pan. This is the number 2 palette. And this, fun fact, was actually the first Natasha Denona palette that I purchased. So it is quite old because I know that I purchased this because it was less expensive. I wanted to try Natasha Denona, and she hadn't come out with her mini little 5-pans yet. So that's how I know that it's old. But I love this color story. It's not bad. I just don't reach for it as much as others, which is why it's coming in at number 16, 19, 18, 7, and why it's coming in at number 17. And, you know, it's definitely something that I gravitate towards even years later. I love these just cooler tones. You're going to hear me say that a lot. The only thing is this shade here is just a little bit chalky. So that's why I just don't reach for it as much. It kind of looks weird, and I don't really like that shade. So that's why I'm putting it at number 17. Number 16 goes to another 5-pan. This is when she stopped numbering her 5-pans and started naming them, and I was a little surprised by my choice, but this is the Camel palette. Now, the reason why I was surprised is because I have used this palette a lot. You can't tell, but I've significantly used this palette. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, I lived in the Philippines for 2 years, and I was very limited to the amount of makeup I could bring. The Philippines is an island, so whatever I brought, I needed to be able to fit in my suitcase back when I left. And I did bring this palette, and I remember I wore this New Year's Eve for 2020, so maybe this is just a bad omen palette, but I do love this palette. It has everything you could ever want, those neutral browns, a great shimmer. Just again, in these 5-pans, this like shade here is just really chalky. You can still see it compared to the other palette I just swatched, but I don't like how it looks on the lid as much. Even this one's a little better. But when I was looking at all the other palettes, it's just a little bit more warm toned than I prefer. You'll really see just a common theme. I love cool tone palettes, and being that it's a little bit more warm tone, I've just grown out of it. The shimmer especially, there's other shimmers that I prefer. It's a little bit, you know, very subdued. So that's why I put this at number 16. Not a bad palette whatsoever. Would highly recommend if you just want a great everyday neutral to warm brown palette that's petite, easy to travel with. This is it. But there's other ones out of all these palettes that I just like more and reach for more over this one. Number 15 spot is going to go to my first larger palette, and that is the Metropolis palette. So this is a really nice palette. I actually really do like this palette, but compared to the other ones, again, this is as warm tone as you're going to get. So that's why it's just ranked a little bit lower. I know some people had some trouble with some of the shades in here. I didn't too much, but I know it's like this shade where it's like that creamy matte, this one as well. I don't necessarily use these shades all that much, so I'm not having as much trouble, but I do like this on occasion. There's a time and place where I will reach for this. It's just not very often. It's gonna be 1 or 2 times in the fall time, and that's about it. So just based on how infrequent I use this palette is why I put it at number 15. I don't think you can get this anymore. So I think it's now discontinued. I'm happy that I have it. I love this green. I do love the browns in here. and it gives me color without too much color, like the Tropic palette. If I want a blue, I'll reach for this rather than the Tropic. So, you know, this is a nice palette, just one that I don't reach for enough where it would be high on my list to repurchase. If I lost this palette, I'd probably forget about it in a couple months and never even remember that I had it. And that's why it's just ranked a little bit lower. Let's move on to number 14. 14 through 10 is pretty interchangeable. There are very slight differences in my ranking decisions, but number 14 went to the Mini Zendo palette. This is a nice palette. I do like this. There's just other ones I like the color story a little bit better. I didn't buy the Mini Zendo. I'm glad that I just have like the small one, not the midi size. And you can still get the color story essentially without having a larger palette. So I am happy that I have this, but it's not something I can see a lot of looks out of or something that I just gravitate towards very frequently. I like the look that I came up with, and I reached for this pretty quickly to come up with a look, but it's not very versatile in my opinion, and that's why it's just ranked at number 14, whereas I have some other smaller mini palettes that are ranked a lot higher. This I wouldn't travel with. So even though it's small, travel friendly, I wouldn't travel with this palette, and that's why it's ranked at 14. Number 13, I'm kind of expecting to get some hate for, but it is going to go to the Mini Nude. So this is better than the Camel palette for sure, which is why it's ranked higher. You can get a very easy eye look out of this. I think it's very versatile. I would travel with this palette if I was very limited on space, could only bring maybe one eyeshadow palette. I think this is great. Just, it's a little bit more warm tone. This is a more warm tone brown in the matte. And that's primarily the reason why I ranked it lower. Just, it doesn't call to me as much as some of these other palettes. And while it's nice, I love simple palettes. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I love simple palettes. But for some reason, there's something about this that's just, it's like too simple. So it still has to have something to it. And this just doesn't. This doesn't give it to me. This shade here, I don't like as much. It's just a little bit more bronzy. Again, I gravitate more towards like a cooler bronze. This one here is very pretty. I do love that shade, but I would rather grab for other mini palettes that you're gonna see coming up over this one. Coming in at number 12 is the Mini Love. So I'm pretty sure that I have the full size of the Love palette as well as the Lila palette, Lila, but I don't have them with me here in France. I'm pretty sure they're still in Arizona where I still have a bunch of stuff I need to bring over from my move. But number 12 is going to the Love palette. And you know, this is super cute. It gives the entire Love vibe without needing the Love palette. I like that it's smaller. You know, I haven't tried the Love palette. It's over there. I haven't been able to try it, but I can probably guarantee that if I wanted that essence of a palette, I would reach for this over that. I just like that you have these easy shades where compared to the Mini Nude, I could see multiple looks out of this palette while giving like a very specific vibe. This is not a palette I'm gonna reach for all the time in any way, but when I grab for this, I know that I'm gonna like the look. It's gonna be a very specific look that I'm going for. And it still has like, I love this kind of shade, just has my heart here. I love this shimmer. This is just like very light with a hint of pink, but compared to the first two that I showed, like the number 2 palette, as well as there was another one, the Camel palette that had like that light chalky shade. This one is so much smoother. And this is just a way better formula compared to those other 2 palettes. And that's why I ranked it a little bit higher. This palette just makes me happy. I would reach for this if I like lost all my palettes. I would repurchase this because it's a little something special, extra, but small enough. It's not one of the big palettes that are just a little bit more expensive. I really like this one, and that's why it's at number 12. We're kind of getting into the ones, I like all of these. I would repurchase all of these. So take this ranking with a grain of salt going forward because all of these are great palettes that I would repurchase. Just if I had to choose, this is the order I would put them in. Number 11 is going to go to the Mini Lila. Now, I ranked this a little bit higher than the Mini Love, only because it has these two neutral shades here. So even I said I could come up with multiple looks with this. I have even more looks with this one, and purple is my favorite color. So clearly I had to just rank this one a little bit higher, but I love this one so much. Like you just have, if I just want something simple, easy, like I can just use these two colors if I was to take this traveling with me, or if I wanted something a little bit more smoky, you have the purples here. So I love all the looks and the versatility that comes with this palette while it's still being very just small and petite. So that's why I ranked this one at number 11. There are others you're gonna see that ranked a little bit higher, and that's just based off of the color story, but I would definitely repurchase this one. If you don't have the Lila, I would consider getting this one to just kind of have like the Lila essence without spending $129 doing it. This palette is great. Number 10 hurts my heart a little bit that I ranked it this low because I purchased it right when it came out. I was so excited for it. It's another one of the big palettes, and that is the Biba palette. I thought I was gonna use just the crap out of this palette. It's a neutral palette with warm tones, neutral tones, cool tones. It has everything that a neutral lover would want. But for me, looking and comparing the Natasha Denona palettes, I would rather just have a smaller neutral palette. I don't really grab for very, very large palettes. This is the $129 palette. If it was a midi palette, the I think they're $69 now, I would maybe have ranked it higher, but based on the price point, the size, it's just one of the larger palettes that I reach for the least, and I wish that I reached for it more. These are not bad shades. They're a great formula. They blend really well. You can come up with clearly a lot of looks, but when I look at my collection as a whole, there's other Natasha Denona palettes that have neutral colors similar to what's in this in those palettes. So I'd rather have a palette that has 75% neutral tones and 25% like unique special tones. And that's why this one just doesn't get pulled for, because I pull for those other palettes that just have maybe just a little bit of color to dip my toes into. And this one just doesn't give it to me, unfortunately, which is just really disappointing because I only have like a few of those $129 palettes. And I wish I honestly, I like this, I get use out of this, but I almost wish that I hadn't wasted my money on this because I don't get enough use out of it to justify the price. For number 9, this goes to another mini. You'll notice that primarily my collection has the minis just because they're so affordable and small. I really like just smaller palettes, but this goes to the mini retro palette. And I ranked this one higher because I think that the looks I come up with are really nice. I love this peachy shade. Greens just have my heart. I mean, army green is probably like my second favorite color. I say it's purple, but I wear army green way more than purple. I love it. And it just, like I said, comparing it to the Biba, like this has neutral tones while still having something special in just in case I want it. So that's why it's just ranked a little bit higher. I love the size of this. Again, I'll always say that when it comes to these mini palettes, I love the size of them. I think they're perfect for people who just have a lot of eyeshadow because realistically, like I am not going to hit pan on one of these, and I'd rather spend less money than buy a larger eyeshadow palette I will for sure never hit pan on and spend the extra money. I think this is really great. I love all the shades and it gives me something neutral but a little bit different, and I love that. That's why this is coming in at number 9. Now, the number 8 spot is going to go to the mini gold palette. It also has like this army green color, but I just reach for this palette so much more. When I want a gold look, this is 9 times out of 10 the palette that I reach for. So it just has like this perfect neutral brown. Natasha Denona, she is the best at coming up with these neutral brown colors. And then you have this one to darken up the crease. You have this army green and then the gold and the blue. Again, neutral with something special, but I love these tones. When I reach for color, I don't reach for the tropic. I don't reach for purples and blues. I reach for these kinds of tones when I want something that's just not a brown smoky eye or those pinky mauves. this is the kind of color story I reach for. I think that this is fantastic, great. You can wear it every day. You can wear it in the evening for something like an event. I love this palette. That's why I put it at number 8. However, number 7, it was a very close call. Number 7 is gonna go to the full-size gold palette. This one, I had to rank it over the mini because I love this palette. This is probably the last Natasha Denona palette that I purchased, and I lusted over this palette forever and ever. I bought the mini gold before this one, clearly, and then I heard that this one was probably gonna get discontinued, so it had been on my wish list forever, and I was like, okay, Melissa, like it's now or never. Either you're gonna buy this palette or it's gonna sit in your cart and it's gonna go away. So I ended up purchasing it, and I'm so happy that I did. This is what I kind of wish the Biba was, or this is my perfect neutral with something special palette. I know that the Biba is meant to be just neutrals, and there's a market for that. But for me, this is like my perfect neutral palette. I just love how it has all these different brown tones in here with the gold, with this blue. I can't speak highly enough of this palette. I really love it. I know that some people either love or hate it, but for me, this is the palette that I'm wearing today on my eyes, and I'm so happy that I have this. Even though it's one of the more expensive eyeshadow palettes, it has my heart. I'm so glad I finally pulled the trigger. I wish I had purchased it sooner so I had more wear time out of it, but I'm happy that I have this. Do not regret at all. Highly recommend if you can find it and get your hands on it. Now, the number 6 spot is going to go to this one. This is the Mini Glam palette. And have I mentioned I love cool tone palettes? I think I have. So this is why this is ranked at number 6. I love cool tone eye looks. So you have this perfect, just cool tone, kind of khaki, muddy brown. You have this deeper brown. You have these perfect lid shades. It's the perfect kind of palette for me. I love everything about this. I use this quite often for just simple, easy looks, especially just like a date night look. I love this palette. Can't speak enough about it. I have the Glam palette coming up, just spoiler alert, but I'm happy that I purchased this. I think I purchased this before the full size. A lot of these I did just because when they're $25, it's kind of like, okay, I'll just throw it in my cart and then hold off until like a Sephora sale for these larger ones. But I'm happy that I bought this. Had I bought the Glam first, probably would have purchased that one. But this is travel friendly. I do not regret this at all. If I want just the Glam vibe without bringing a Glam palette with me, I have this. So love that. And now we're in top 5. So top 5 spot is going to go to my last mini palette, and that is the Mini Star. So I just want to compare it to the Mini Glam here and why I decided to choose this one as number 5 and this one as number 6. I just like the versatility with this one. I love this like olive metallic shade. You have similar browns here. You have similar lid shades there. You have a little bit of difference with the kind of crease colors, what I'm going to typically call it, where you're going to put in the crease. I do like this a little bit more. While I like the cool tone here, this is just a little bit more warmer. This is very light and kind of just similar to your skin tone with just a hint of cool. So I do use this one more. And then you kind of have this unique blue shade. So that's why I just ranked this at number 5 versus 6 with the Glam palette. But this is the number 1 mini palette I would recommend if you're wanting something Natasha Denona. I think that it has a great range of her formula here. The perfect just crease, deepen, give some depth, and then you have different lid shades. So just off the bat, like 4 different looks that I can see using this palette while being able to try a lot of Natasha Denona's formula. This is my favorite mini. I'm going to stick with that at the number 5 spot. Number 4 is going to go to my last 5 pan, and that is this one. So this is Ayana, and what can I say about this? So I love the look that I came up with. It has cool tone looks while having like that hint of pink. And I think that's what makes it really special. I know a lot of people are kind of getting really sick of those pinky tones, but I am not. I love it. This shade here is just perfection on what I want out of a shade. So I love it. And I especially, I love this shade too. Both of these. These are both great. However, out of all my small palettes, this is just the one that I reached for out of all of them. I think I used this 3 or 4 times, which is saying something. Having 19 palettes in 2 months, like it's a little bit difficult to use them all. So really, if I don't wear makeup every day, I really had to like make sure I was using all of these palettes while using Shop My Stash, while using just things that I'm testing. So it was tough to get to all these, which is why it took me a long time. But this one, like I said, I wore 2 or 3 times. I really enjoyed the looks I came up with. It's just very easy, simple, don't have to think about it, and that's why I love it. If I was to travel again for a long period of time and could only bring just a very few amount of things, this is probably the palette I would choose, even though this is hitting number 4, mainly because of the size, but because this is the kind of look that I could see myself wearing almost every day. If I just needed one palette, I really, really enjoy this one, which is why I put it at number 4. We are finally in the top 3. So top 3 palette, number 3 goes to this one. This is the Natasha Denona Star palette. I think that this is the palette that really put Natasha Denona on the map for popularity. I know Tati used this all the time. She wore it on her wedding day. That is what made me want this palette. It sat on my wish list for so long. I think I bought this before I bought the gold. It hasn't been that long ago that I purchased this though. And I love the versatility in this. It just has, kind of like I mentioned in the gold, just a lot of neutral tones with like different special shades. You still have this blue. Clearly, she just loves this kind of blue. But what really pushed me over the edge is like these mauvey rosy tones. I love those tones. You have a lot of just different lid shades. I have those staple mattes that I can use in the crease to add some depth. And then I have a lot of versatility with the shimmers. I really enjoy this palette a lot. I think that it's kind of gotten overlooked now that she's come out with all these other palettes. But to me, this one really just stands the test of time. I don't have any issue with the formula. I know some people said, I think that this one has a little bit more issues or it's a little bit trickier to use. I don't find that at all, but I'm not a pro makeup artist. I'm just a simple amateur who does very simple eye looks. So take that with what you will, but I can't get enough of this palette. I almost ranked it higher, but going back and just thinking about what would be the first palette I would purchase, this wouldn't be the first, but it would be number 3. So that's why I put it in the number 3 spot. On to number 2. Now I mentioned in the beginning of this that I switched these 2 at the very last second, so they're a little bit interchangeable, but I'm sticking with this as number 2, and that is gonna go to the Retro palette. Now, I love this palette. I think that this is one of her best palettes. While it doesn't match the theme of the mini palette, I don't really know what went on with that. I think that she should have named this something else and then come out with the mini retro that really matched that mini. But I love this. I love all the tones in here. What really just bumped it down to number 2 is that it doesn't have as many neutral shades as I would like. This really is just your rosy toned palette. It's light enough that I don't feel it's too in your face with those bold colors. So when I want something that's not your neutral brown smoky eye with a shimmer on the lid, this is the palette that I reach for. I reach for this so often. This, what shade? This nude mauve shade. I mean, this is just perfection. This shimmer shade, hello, I love this. Like this one is extraordinary. I love this shade as well. So they have really great shades in here. It just bumped it down because I wish it was like half and half neutral in color. And that's just me. I can see a lot of people being happy having just one palette with one color story and having like your different palettes. What's really great about Natasha Denona is she has like these little poke holes in the back. So I could take my number 1, my number 2 and kind of do half and half and make my perfect palette, which is not a bad idea, but part of me doesn't want to switch the shades around. So I don't know what I'll do, but maybe I will. And I can't say enough about this. It was a close tie to number 1. Let's just go into my number 1 right now. That is going to go to the Glam palette. I think I've made my thoughts clear on just what I love, what I gravitate towards. If I lost all my Natasha Denona palettes, this would be the first one I would go repurchase because it has those half and halves. If I could just combine these two yeah, I would be in heaven. That would be perfection. Should I do that? Let me know in the comments if you think it's worth switching my palettes around, because I don't know if I want to start that, but I hate reaching for multiple palettes, so I'm just torn. Let me know your opinion in the comment, and maybe I will do a video swapping around my Natasha Denona palettes, but I love this palette. I don't know what to say. I remember when this first released, a lot of people said they weren't excited about it, and I was like, man, I think it came out close to the Biba, or it came out close to when I purchased the Biba, so I held off on buying this for quite a while, because I was like, I just spent $129 on this palette. This one, $65 at the time. It was less expensive, but I was like, do I really need like another neutral palette? But with the cool tones, it just makes it so good. I just love it. I'm so glad that cool tones are coming back, because for a while, it was just warm tone everything. You can clearly notice the palettes that I'm missing from Natasha Denona. I don't have the sunrise. I don't have the sunset. The bronze. I don't have the bronze. I just was never interested in those. But when she announced this one, instantly I was like, my heart wants this. I need this palette. I love this palette. I wear it quite often because it's so easy. She also got like a little bit of mixed reviews on naming these shades where they don't have names, like they have crease, transition, center eyelid, etc. But I don't mind that at all. I actually think it's a really smart idea, considering that you can swap the palettes. That gives me a little bit less anxiety swapping this palette than like swapping the retro that has the names, because I want to be able to reference the names in the retro, and that's what holds me back. With this, I don't care, because they don't have a name to it. I don't know if that makes any sense, what my brain is thinking, but I don't care about swapping around this palette. I care about swapping around the retro that has official names to them, because it has like its place, it has its home. This I don't feel like has its like specific home. I can do what I want with it. So I personally really like that. I also just, as a makeup beginner, not someone who's really great with eyeshadow, I appreciate having just like suggestions there. I always love that. So that's why I put this at number 1. If I lost all my Natasha Denona palettes, if they went missing, this is 100% without a doubt the first one that I would buy, and then the second one would be the retro. That is going to complete my Natasha Denona ranking. I think that I have talked long enough. You'll have to let me know down in the comments what your opinions are, if you agree or disagree with me. Everyone's makeup opinion's different, so I love hearing just what everyone has to think. What would be your number 1 Natasha Denona palette? But that is where I'm going to leave you all, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.